My name is Ava. I'm 17 now. But the story I'm about to share started just after my 16th birthday in a house that used to be full of light, love, and my mother's laughter. Her name was Elena. She wasn't just my mom, she was my safe place, my anchor, my best friend. The kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday and made blueberry pancakes on the worst days because she believed comfort food could heal anything. She smelled like cinnamon and lavender, and she always knew what I was feeling before I even said a word. She wasn't perfect, but to me, she was everything. And then, in one breathless second, everything changed. It was a Saturday morning. We were supposed to go shopping for art supplies. I had a project due, and she promised we'd make a whole day of it. She stood in the kitchen with her coffee, laughing about how my dad had managed to shrink her favorite sweater in the dryer. And then, she just collapsed. No warning. No goodbye. Just a sound, her body hitting the tile. By the time the ambulance arrived, she was already gone. The doctors said it was an aneurysm. Quick. Unpredictable. At least she didn't suffer. Someone whispered in the waiting room like that was supposed to be comforting. But I suffered. I suffered every second after. The house turned cold. Quiet. My dad, Michael, barely spoke those first few days. He wandered around like a ghost, staring into her closet, sleeping with the light on. We clung to each other in the nights, crying in silence because the sound of our grief felt unbearable. For a while, I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd get through this together. I couldn't have been more wrong. Exactly 4 weeks after the funeral, 4 weeks after we stood in front of her headstone, clutching tissues in each other, my father changed. It was like a switch flipped. He started shaving again, wearing aftershave, coming home later than usual. One evening, he smiled, not the hollow, grief-stricken kind, but a warm, flirty smile, and I froze. He smelled like perfume, not my mom's, someone else's. I wanted to believe he was just seeing an old friend, that he was trying to distract himself. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt because I loved him, because I needed him. But in my gut, I knew better. 2 days later, he confirmed it. He brought her to our house. Nicole. That's how I met the woman who would unravel my world even more than death already had. She walked in wearing a tight red dress, heels that clicked across the floor like an announcement, and a wide, polished smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was beautiful in a very curated, Instagram kind of way. But there was something hollow behind her charm, something cold, calculating. She looked around our home like it was a blank canvas she couldn't wait to repaint. And me? I was an obstacle. She didn't say it, not outright, but I could feel it. From the first moment she called me sweetheart in that syrupy, patronizing tone, I knew she didn't see me as a daughter. She saw me as my mother's ghost, a shadow she didn't want in the picture. That first dinner together was excruciating. She laughed too loud. She touched my dad's arm too much. She complimented the wallpaper my mom had picked out like it was already hers to redecorate. I picked up my food in silence, feeling like an intruder in my own home. Later that night, I asked my dad, trying to stay calm, if this was serious. He looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen in weeks and said, "Nicole makes me feel alive again. You want that for me, right?" I couldn't respond. Because yes, I wanted him to smile again. I wanted him to heal. But I didn't want my mother's memory erased just so he could fast-track his way to happiness. But that's exactly what he did. 2 weeks after introducing her, they were engaged. 6 weeks after burying my mother, the woman who built our life with her bare hands, my father gave someone else a ring. Nicole showed it off like a trophy, and I nearly vomited when I saw the stone looked eerily similar to my mom's wedding ring. She even wore it on the same finger. From that point on, things escalated fast. Her twin kids, both 12, started showing up every weekend. They barged into the house like it already belonged to them, stomping through hallways, fighting over the TV remote, and never once knocking before barging into my room. Nicole started redecorating, first little things, like throw pillows and kitchen towels, but then she ripped out my mom's flower garden to open the yard. She donated my mom's cookbooks to Goodwill without asking. Her scent slowly replaced everything in the house: vanilla body spray, hairspray, and fake cheer. And my dad? He let it happen. Worse, he helped her pack away pieces of my mom like they were just seasonal decorations. I stopped eating dinner downstairs. I lived in my room like a ghost, like a guest in the house I grew up in. Nicole told my dad I was going through a phase. He started blaming me for the tension. I wanted to scream, "Your wife just died, and you're treating me like the problem?" But no one was listening. And slowly, something inside me, something soft, something innocent, began to crack. After the wedding, the house didn't just feel different. It was different. Nicole moved in officially with her 2 kids, Tyler and Tessa, and everything shifted. My room became the only untouched space, the last corner of my mother's world. But even that was starting to feel invaded. Her kids treated me like I was invisible. Worse, like I was the outsider. Tyler took over the living room every afternoon with his video games, blasting the volume while I tried to study. Tessa started helping herself to my makeup, my books, my sketch pad, and when I asked her to stop, she'd roll her eyes and call me obsessive. But the real damage wasn't in the noise or the mess. It was the silence between me and my dad. The way he looked at me now, like I was inconvenient. Like I was an old photo on the wall that no longer fit his new aesthetic. Nicole pretended to play peacemaker. She'd say things like, "We're all still adjusting," or "You just need time to warm up to us," as if I hadn't lost my entire world while she redecorated it in shades of beige. And then one afternoon, everything shifted again, this time with one overheard conversation. I came home from school early. I had a stomachache, and the nurse sent me home. The house was unusually quiet, except for Nicole's voice carrying down the hallway from my dad's home office. The door was cracked open. I shouldn't have listened. I know that. But I did. Her voice was low, almost conspiratorial. "It's a sizable trust, more than I expected, honestly. Elena must have known what she was doing. But if Ava's declared emotionally unstable or financially irresponsible, Michael can apply for temporary control. That way, we don't have to wait until she's 18. I froze. Trust? My name? Emotionally unstable? The walls felt like they were closing in. I stepped back slowly, heart thudding so loud I thought it might give me away. I slipped upstairs and shut my bedroom door as quietly as I could. I collapsed onto the floor and sat there, numb, for what felt like hours. My mother had left me something, and they were trying to take it. Suddenly, so many things made sense. The way my father dismissed me every time I brought up my mother. The way Nicole constantly called me moody, volatile, ungrateful. They weren't just trying to erase my mother's memory. They were trying to discredit me. That night, I waited until the house was asleep. My hand shook as I snuck downstairs and used the office key I had hidden years ago to open the filing cabinet. I dug through the drawers until I found it, a thick envelope labeled, "Trust, Ava Elizabeth Carter." Inside were pages and pages of legal documents. I didn't understand all of it, but I saw enough. My mother had left a trust in my name, a sizable one. It was meant to become available to me when I turned 18, to help with college, housing, anything I might need to stand on my own. She had protected me even from beyond the grave, and now they were trying to steal it. The next morning, I confronted my dad. He was sipping coffee at the kitchen table, pretending like everything was fine. Nicole was upstairs getting ready. The twins were arguing over cereal. I sat across from him, holding one of the papers from the trust file. "What is this?" I asked. He glanced at it, then back at me. His expression didn't even change. "It's complicated," he said. "You wouldn't understand the responsibility something like that comes with." "She left it for me," I said, my voice trembling. "You had no right to hide it." He sighed like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "You've been emotionally unstable for months, Ava. Ever since your mother passed. You've isolated yourself, lashed out, made it clear you don't want to be a part of this family." "Because this isn't my family," I snapped. "She replaced Mom. You let her. You let her throw everything away." His face hardened. "You need to be careful what you say. You're becoming paranoid." There it was. The angle they were going to use. If they could make me look unstable, like a grieving teen who couldn't function, they could take control. They could manipulate the system. Take the trust. Keep the house. Rewrite the story. I stared at him across the table, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see my father. I saw a man I couldn't trust. That night, I called my mother's parents. My grandparents had offered before, after the funeral, to take me in, but I refused. I wanted to believe my dad and I could make it work. That we could rebuild. But now I knew the truth. There was nothing left to rebuild. I told them everything, the trust, Nicole's manipulation, my dad's plans. My grandmother didn't say much. Just one sentence. "We're coming to get you in the morning. Pack only what matters." I packed that night in silence. My sketchbooks, a few clothes, my mom's scarf, her locket, and the trust file. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to start over. Enough to finally escape the house that had become a prison. The morning I left didn't feel real. I kept waiting for someone to stop me, for Nicole to throw one last insult, or for my dad to beg me to stay. But when I came down the stairs with my bag over my shoulder and my mother's scarf around my neck, there was no fight, no tears, just quiet. It was 7:42 a.m. when my grandparents pulled into the driveway. I watched through the window as my grandmother stepped out first, dressed in one of her classic tailored coats, face carved from stone. My grandfather stayed behind the wheel, jaw tight, hands gripping the steering wheel like he might crush it. I took one last look at the house, at the staircase I used to slide down in socks, at the walls that had once echoed with my mother's voice, now replaced by the sterile scent of Nicole's candles and silence. When I opened the front door, my dad was standing in the hallway. He had one hand on the banister, the other in his pocket. "You're really doing this," he said flatly. I looked him in the eyes, the same ones that used to read bedtime stories and light up when I brought home crayon drawings. "Yes," I said, "I am." "She wouldn't have wanted this," he muttered, shaking his head. "You running away, tearing the family apart." I cut him off. "No. What she wouldn't have wanted," I said, my voice rising for the first time in months, "is for you to pretend she never existed. To replace her memory with someone who sees me as a problem. To lie. To steal. To take what she left me and twist it into something dirty." He blinked, but didn't deny it. He said nothing. And I realized right then, the father I loved, the man who danced with me in the kitchen, who built snowmen with me in the front yard, had either died with my mom or buried himself in guilt so deep he'd never climb out. So I walked out. Nicole didn't even come downstairs. The kids didn't say goodbye, and I didn't look back. I sat in the back seat of my grandparents' car, clutching the trust folder like a lifeline, and stared straight ahead as the only home I'd ever known shrank in the rearview mirror. Moving in with my grandparents felt like stepping into a new world, not flashy or full of noise, but warm, safe. They didn't ask too many questions. They didn't force me to talk. They just made space. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No yelling. No footsteps outside my door. No forced dinners where I pretended I was okay. I went back to school, started drawing again, took long walks around the neighborhood just to feel the sun. Slowly, I stitched myself back together. And then, I started learning the truth. With the help of my grandfather, a retired banker, thankfully, we reviewed every detail of the trust. My mother had left it in a firm's care, shielded with legal protections. But there were two red flags in the file, two unauthorized attempts to access it, both logged under my father's name. He hadn't just lied to me. He had actively tried to take what was mine. We filed an injunction, fast. His name was legally barred from any access or influence over the trust from that moment forward. I thought I'd feel relief, but what I felt was betrayal. And then, weeks later, came a storm I didn't expect. Nicole left him. I found out from a classmate who had a cousin on Nicole's daughter's soccer team. She packed her things, took her twins, and left the house without a word. I thought I'd feel victorious, like karma had finally spun around. But all I felt was nothing, just a heavy, hollow nothing. A few days later, I received a message on Facebook from my father. Just one sentence. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for hours. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another one came. "I made mistakes. I see that now. Please, just one conversation." But this wasn't a redemption arc. This wasn't the part where we hug in the rain and pretend things hadn't broken beyond repair. I wrote back only once. "When you're ready to apologize, not just for what you did to me, but for how you erased her, then maybe. Until then, I have everything I need. And I am exactly where Mom wanted me to be." He never replied. And honestly, I didn't expect him to. Some stories don't end in reconciliation. Some stories end in rescue. Not by someone else, but by yourself. My mom didn't just leave me money. She left me a map. A way out. A whispered promise hidden in paperwork and love. If they fail you, you are strong enough to walk away. And I did. I built something new. Something soft. Something safe. I still wear her locket every day. But I don't need it to remember her. I carry her in every boundary I set. Every time I choose peace over pain. Every time I choose myself. And that's the legacy she left behind.